Imagine pulling up to a gas station and filling your car's tank. That fuel will last you a week, maybe two. Now look at a strategic bomber like the B-52 Stratofortress. In the time it took you to hear this sentence, that plane just burned the same amount of fuel your car uses in 3 years. In a single hour of flight, this giant turns 26,000 pounds of kerosene into noise and heat. That's not just a lot, that is 4,000 gallons. If you tried to fill this plane using a standard gas station pump, you would have to stand there holding the handle for 48 hours straight. But fuel is just the tip of the iceberg. Today, we are going to break down the real cost of strategic aviation. We will count every dollar, every gallon, and every minute to answer one question. Why does a single mission of these machines cost more than your entire lifetime earnings? Let's get into the consumption numbers because they break the laws of common sense. A strategic bomber, whether it's the American Shornried B-52 or the supersonic B-1 Lancer, is essentially a flying oil refinery. At takeoff, when the engines are screaming at the limit, fuel consumption spikes to insane levels. But even at cruising speed, just to stay in the air, a B-52 burns roughly 3,300 gallons per hour. To give you a sense of scale, a standard railroad tanker car holds about 30,000 gallons. So during a standard 12-hour mission, a single bomber drinks an entire railroad tanker dry. The carbon footprint of one flight equals what a medium-sized town emits in 24 hours. But when we're talking about nuclear deterrence, the environment usually leaves the chat. Where does all that fuel go? The answer is simple and terrifying. The plane is the tank. Inside the wings and body of a B-52, you can fit 48,000 gallons of jet fuel. Picture a standard high school gymnasium. If you poured all the fuel from one bomber into that gym, it would cover the entire floor in a layer 2 feet deep. This supply is enough to fly roughly 9,000 miles without stopping. That's the distance from Los Angeles to Sydney, but the craziest part is the physics. On a full tank, fuel makes up half the weight of the entire aircraft. The pilots are literally flying a liquid bomb with wings. How heavy is this beast? The maximum takeoff weight of a B-52 is 488,000 pounds, 220 tons. The Russian Tu-160 is even heavier, over 600,000 pounds. To put that in perspective, that is the weight of 150 Honda Civics tied together and thrown into the sky. Or a fully loaded diesel locomotive, every extra pound requires more thrust, which means more fuel. It's a vicious cycle. To fly further, you need more fuel, but fuel has weight, so you need even more fuel just to carry the fuel. This is why the takeoff of a strategic bomber is always dramatic. You need a runway at least 2 miles long. If an engine fails during a fully loaded takeoff, there is almost no chance to stop. The inertia of a 200-ton machine will simply grind the brakes to dust. Now, let's talk money. How much does it cost to keep this monster in the sky for just 60 minutes? If we look at the old reliable B-52, 1 hour of flight cost the taxpayers roughly $70,000. But if we look at the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, the numbers become obscene. 1 hour of flight for a B-2 costs between $130,000 and $170,000, depending on how you calculate it. Think about that. 1 hour passes, you watch an episode of a TV show, and in the sky, the Air Force just burned a brand new Porsche 911 Turbo S. Does the plane fly for 10 hours? That's 10 Porsches dropped out of the bomb bay. A single training mission costs as much as building a small public library. And that's just so the pilots don't get rusty. You see one plane in the sky and assume there are 4 or 5 crew members involved. That is an illusion. One bomber sortie is the work of hundreds of people. There is a metric called MMH/FH, maintenance man-hours per flight hour. For the B-2 Spirit, this number is around 60 hours. That means if the plane flies for 1 hour, a team of 60 people has to work for 1 hour on the ground to fix it. Or one person has to work for 2 weeks straight, checking hydraulics, electronics, stealth coatings, engines. This isn't a Formula One pit stop, it's complex surgery performed after every single landing. Without this army of technicians, the deadliest bomber in the world is just an expensive paperweight on the concrete. Why is the maintenance so expensive? Let's take the B-2 again. Its main weapon is invisibility, but the radar-absorbent coating is as high maintenance as a Hollywood diva. It hates moisture, heat, and dust. A B-2 can't just sit outside under a tarp. It needs a specialized climate-controlled hangar. After every flight, technicians with microscopes inspect the skin. A single scratch on the coating can make the plane visible to radar, turning a $2 billion asset into an easy target. And the engines? The lifespan of these turbines melts away on afterburner. A full engine rebuild costs millions. Essentially, every flight kills the plane a little bit. This isn't a Toyota that runs for 200,000 miles. Every hour in the air brings it closer to an inevitable, astronomically expensive overhaul. Sometimes 9,000 miles of range isn't enough. That's when the magic happens. Aerial refueling. It looks routine, but think about it. Two machines weighing hundreds of tons are flying at 500 miles per hour, just 30 feet apart. Through the boom, fuel is pumped at a rate of 1,000 gallons per minute. Remember filling your car? It takes 2 or 3 minutes. Here, in a single second, 17 gallons of kerosene smash into the tanks. It's like filling your car's gas tank with a single snap of your fingers. Without refueling, strategic aviation is useless. It is the KC-135 tankers that turn these bombers into global weapons. Without them, they are just coastal defense aircraft. Given the price tag of $150,000 an hour, these planes don't fly just to check the weather. Every flight is a geopolitical message. In diplomacy, there is a term called showing the flag. But when a wing of strategic bombers approaches a border, that's not showing the flag, that is showing the club. It is the most expensive way to send an email to a foreign government. When a B-52 flies over the neutral waters of the Baltic or the South China Sea, it usually isn't carrying nukes. But the mere fact that it's there forces the other country's air defense systems to light up, fighters to scramble, and generals to sweat. The cost of this nervous tick is millions of dollars per flight, but governments believe it's still cheaper than starting a real war. Let's put it all together with one real-world example. Operation Secret Squirrel 1991, 7 B-52s take off from Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, fly to Iraq, launch cruise missiles, and fly back to the U.S. non-stop. That is 35 hours of continuous flight. For 35 hours, the crew sat, strapped into tight ejection seats. Imagine sitting in your bathtub for a day and a half solving calculus problems, knowing that one mistake could kill you. This flight required multiple mid-air refuelings. The engines ran hot for a day and a half. The logistics of this single mission were as complex as organizing a massive music festival, but in the sky and with deadly weapons. It was the first time in history a combat mission was launched from the other side of the planet. And finally, the fact that ends all arguments about cost. The B-2 Spirit program was so expensive that the order was cut from 132 planes down to just 21. If you take the total program cost and divide it by the number of planes, the price of a single B-2 comes out to $2.1 billion in 1997 dollars. Back then, the press loved to make a specific comparison. If you took a B-2 and put it on a scale, and on the other side you stacked pure solid gold of the same weight, the plane cost more than the gold, literally, flying gold ingot weighing 70 tons. Today, with inflation and gold prices changing, the ratio has shifted, but the point remains. Losing one of these aircraft isn't just losing a military asset, it's like crashing the GDP of a small island nation into the ground. The strategic bomber is the summit of engineering and the absolute bottom of financial efficiency. These are machines that incinerate budgets, drink fuel by the railroad car, and require armies of servants. But their real price isn't measured in dollars or gallons. Their price is the ability to project power to any point on Earth in under 24 hours. And until humanity invents something more convincing, we will keep paying that bill. Subscribe if you want to know the cost of things they don't tell you about. See you in the next one.